The gravel crunched beneath her boots as she stepped off the transport truck, shoulders squared but unremarkable, as if she'd trained her entire life to blend in. No patches, no rank, no swagger. Just a canvas duffel slung over one shoulder, and a set of oil-stained hands gripping the strap like it was the last thing tethering her to solid ground. The other recruits didn't even try to hide their curiosity, then their dismissal. A few narrowed their eyes, others scoffed openly. One of them, Private Lennox, tall, loud, and always circling for someone to chew up, laughed as she passed. Mechanics kid in the Viper yard? What's next? The cafeteria lady joining the sniper division. Eva said nothing. Her eyes scanned the base. Stone buildings bleached pale by sun, assault ranges to the west, obstacle towers stabbing up like broken ribs. The air was dry, baked with gunpowder and competition. She walked through it like smoke, quiet, lingering, easy to miss if you weren't looking too closely. Sergeant Callis was waiting. Wide shoulders, gravel voice, sunglasses that never came off. His boots were polished to a mirror shine, but his voice was full of rust. "Brant," he barked, glancing at the clipboard like it had personally offended him. "No service record? Civilian background? Small town? Logistics experience?" He looked up, eyebrows rising like that was the punchline. "You better hope you can cook, because that's the only way you're surviving this place." Snickers ran down the line. Eva didn't flinch. She nodded once, like she agreed with him. Callis stared a second longer, like he was waiting for some spark of protest, some sign of ego. He didn't get one. He turned on his heel and marched off without another word. They didn't give her a rifle, didn't even walk her past the armory. She was handed a clipboard with supply manifests, a radio that crackled every third word, and a bunk at the far end of the barracks with peeling paint and a mattress that sagged in the middle. Her boots stuck to the floor when she stepped inside. No one greeted her. She went to work without complaint, moving crates, checking stock, wiping down equipment that others had abandoned, half cleaned. Her coveralls were too big, sleeves rolled up, and by noon her hair was tied back in a knot, streaked with dust and sweat. She ate alone, sitting on the edge of the mess hall like she didn't want to take up more space than necessary. The others laughed loud around her, louder when they thought she could hear. They tested her. Subtle at first. A mislabeled box here, an order rerouted there, then more obvious, a spilled container of bolts just as she finished inventory. A sandbag wall she was told to build twice because someone forgot to write it down. She didn't react, just got quieter, just worked faster. By the end of her first week, they didn't know what to make of her. She hadn't cracked, hadn't snapped, hadn't tried to prove herself. She just kept going. One night, while the others were sparring or dozing off in front of reruns in the rec hall, Eva was in the supply shed with a flashlight between her teeth, disassembling a busted field radio. Her fingers moved like they remembered every wire, every short, every fix that no one else bothered with. Her eyes didn't blink as she soldered the connection. When she tested the signal and the green light flicked on, she didn't smile. She just clicked the flashlight off, packed the tools, and marked "repaired" on the clipboard before slipping out the door. Nobody saw her that night. But eventually, they would. The wind cut through the training field like a blade the morning the squads were deployed for their first live drill rotation. Cold, dry, and merciless. Orders barked over comms. Boots pounded gravel. It was chaos organized into something like strategy until they left her. No one said it outright. No one needed to. By the time the trucks rolled out, the squad roster showed Eva Brant had been misfiled. A clerical error. Happens all the time. She stood there at the edge of the brush, hands still dusted from loading packs, her vest half secured. The others hadn't looked back. Not once. Somewhere over comms, Private Lennox was already laughing. "She'll cry herself back to camp. Bet she's already halfway to the gate, looking for her mop." But the next morning, before the sun had fully crested over the ridge, Ava was seated in the mess hall. Hair damp from dew, mud on her boots, oatmeal cooling in front of her while her fingers tapped idly at a pencil stub, making notches in the side of a training manual. She didn't say where she'd slept, didn't explain how she found her way back. Just sipped her black coffee while the others filtered Instaflagged, sore, and whispering now. Lennox clocked her from the door, the corner of his mouth twitching with something too ugly to be a smile. He didn't like what he saw. A failure was only useful when they stayed broken. That afternoon he got creative. They were scheduled for a forced March 12 clicks with full kit, uphill on terrain that bit ankles and bloodied toes. As they packed out, Lennox helped by adjusting Eva's straps while she was tying her boots. When they set off, her gear was a disaster. Shoulder rig twisted, one canteen missing, pack cinched wrong so it slammed against her spine with every step. But halfway through the march, she stopped. Not to rest, just to fix. One knee to the dirt, calm hands undoing the mess as if she'd practiced in silence 100 times. She cut the excess cord with a utility blade and rethreaded the straps with fingers that moved like clockwork. No panic, no dramatics. When she reached the checkpoint, Sergeant Callis looked up from his clipboard, one eyebrow raised as she passed. Not first, but far from last. She walked through the finish line without fanfare, pulled a rag from her pocket, and wiped the back of her neck before disappearing toward the water barrels. Lennox arrived 5 minutes later, breathing hard. During a logistics audit the following week, a lieutenant double-counted the field rations for Unit Bravo. An easy mistake, not worth a fuss. The kind of thing no one bothers to double-check except Eva. She didn't report it, didn't confront, just left a revised manifest on his desk. No note, no signature, just a red pen circling the miscalculation. Later that day, the lieutenant stood outside the main barracks, reading the corrected report with his jaw clenched tight. He didn't ask who'd done it. He already knew. The instructors started watching her differently after that, not with approval, not yet, but with caution, like they were trying to remember where they'd seen her before or what they'd missed. Because something wasn't adding up, and Eva Brandt wasn't fading the way she was supposed to. The Fireline trials started under moonlight, and it was already brutal before dawn. 40 recruits packed into transport trucks, rifles slung, packs heavy, nerves tighter than the straps cutting into their shoulders. The briefing had been vague, just the way Stone Viper liked it. Survive the next 48, follow orders, watch your six. No one asked questions, they just loaded up. Eva was in the last truck, wedged between two soldiers who still hadn't learned her name. One tapped his foot constantly. The other muttered about coffee and bad luck. Neither acknowledged her. When the convoy rolled out across the ridge trails, the air was sharp with dust and tension. The Fireline trial was known to break the overconfident and expose the unfit. What no one expected was that it would break the system itself. 4 hours in, the lead truck hit a blind curve too fast. The terrain shifted beneath its wheels, tires catching loose gravel. There was a scream of metal, the sickening thud of impact, and then silence. Smoke drifted in lazy spirals from the ravine where the front vehicle had disappeared. The convoy halted, orders clipped and chaotic came over the radio. Bravo down, check vitals, hold position. Then nothing. The radios crackled, but no voice followed, just static, long and hollow. The squad Ladera second lieutenant with more swagger than spine looked pale in the half-light. He tapped the side of his radio again and again, like volume would fix fear. The second in command shouted to secure a perimeter, but his voice cracked mid-sentence, and no one moved. Panic was crawling in like fog, slow but choking. Eva stepped down from the transport without a word. Her boots hit the gravel hard. She grabbed a toolkit from the undercarriage and moved toward the command Humvee where the comms line was housed. No one stopped her. No one offered to help. They were too busy looking at each other, hoping someone else would step forward. The comms box was fried. The impact surge had shorted the internal battery. Eva popped the panel open, unplugged the charred fuse, and rerouted the power through a backup inverter she rigged with field wires and a grounding clamp from a medkit. She didn't explain what she was doing. She didn't ask for permission. A medic hovered near the ravine, hands trembling as he hovered over the downed officer who'd been thrown clear of the truck. His leg was shredded, blood pulsing in sharp bursts through a makeshift field bandage. Eva dropped to her knees beside him, pulled a belt from her own waist, and cinched a tourniquet 2 inches above the wound. Her hands didn't shake. "We need elevation. Signal's still choking," she said calmly to no one in particular. "And we need a fallback point north of the ridgeline natural cover, high visibility. Move." And they did. Something in her voice cut through the fog. One by one, the soldiers started to listen. The perimeter was reset. Injured hauled back. Supply crates redistributed. When the next wave of simulated fire rang out from the trees, blanks from hidden instructors mimicking enemy fire, no one froze. Eva had already mapped their counter route using a strip of duct tape and a terrain overlay. They moved fast, they moved tight, no shouting, no stumbling, just precision. When the rescue chopper finally circled overhead at dawn on day 2, it hovered for a long moment. The crew saw the flare markers arranged in a perfect triangle. The injured already prepped, weapons stacked. Defensive line dug in. The team looked like they'd trained for weeks. But they hadn't. They just followed the quiet woman with no reputation. The one who hadn't said much in weeks. The one no one had taken seriously until that moment. As the chopper descended, Sergeant Callis stood at the edge of the clearing, arms folded, eyes hidden behind those ever-present sunglasses. He didn't say a word. Didn't need to. Everyone else was already looking at Eva Brandt, and this time, no one was laughing. The gravel didn't sound the same under her boots anymore. It used to crunch sharp, mocking, like every step she took was an echo of how little she belonged. But now it was quieter, like even the dirt had learned to respect her stride. Back at Stone Viper, nobody laughed when Eva Brandt walked by. They didn't nudge each other. They didn't roll their eyes. They just moved, gave her space, eyes down. Some nodded, a few offered clipped greetings, most just watched. In the evenings, while others crowded the rec tent or chased sleep they hadn't earned, Eva could be found behind the hangar, hunched over a busted reconnaissance drone, its left rotor blown out, casing warped. The same hands that used to sort rations and repair field radios now maneuvered delicate tools with a surgeon's patience. A cracked lens, a loose circuit, a missing screw cataloged the failures without frustration, just quiet focus. Sergeant Callis saw her there one night, crouched in the floodlight glow, fingers black with grease, hair tied back with the same band she'd used since the first day. He didn't speak at first. Just watched. The woman he'd once called a kitchen risk was calibrating a targeting sensor like it was second nature. He walked over without a word, a steaming mug in hand, and placed it beside her elbow. Black coffee. No sugar. She looked up just long enough to nod. He didn't linger. He didn't explain. He just walked away. 3 mornings later, the black SUV rolled onto the base with tires too clean for this place. The vehicle idled at the parade square, the engine barely humming. Recruits gathered at the windows, pretending not to stare. The passenger door opened, and a man stepped out, full dress uniform, medals that caught the light like a blade, eyes scanning the yard until they landed on her. "Brandt," he said, voice crisp. Eva looked up from the ammo inventory she'd been triple-checking. No surprise in her face, just a quiet inhale as she set the clipboard down and stood. No salute, no handshake. Just a silent understanding. She didn't pack, didn't gather a crowd or make a speech. She walked to the SUV with the same calm she'd had since day 1, climbed in, and was gone before the dust could even settle. A week later, a single sheet of paper appeared on the command board. No announcement, no ceremony. Just a directive typed in clean black letters. Eva Brandt reassigned to Advanced Tactical Command, Shadow Division, Effective immediately. No one tore it down. In the barracks, the mess hall, the training yard, silence followed the news. The ones who used to joke loudest now sat quietest. Lennox hadn't said a word in 2 days. The woman who'd once mocked Eva's clipboard now checked her own gear twice. And Sergeant Callis? He'd started running drills 5 minutes earlier. No excuses, no shortcuts. The woman with no stripes. No name anyone had known. No reason to be feared until she was. The woman who fixed their radios, carried their crates, saved their commanding officer. The one who never raised her voice but made them follow. The one who remembered every detail and missed nothing. She was gone now, but no one forgot. Because Eva Brandt didn't just survive Stone Viper. She changed it.